All right, class. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. So today's lesson is actually one of my most favorite ones to teach, and it just hurts me that I can't be there to teach you this. Because I really get into it, and I love this lesson so much because this lesson is about electricity. Basically, if you think about it, everything we have around us is based off electricity. So the thing is, you know, what kind of power do we use? There's variations of power, which you're going to learn about today. A lot of students just thought, oh, power is power. That's it. No, no, no. There's different types. And we're going to talk about that, especially the two men who fought to try to say that their way was better than each other's. And this led to the current wars and to some interesting things happening that basically changed our country forever. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So the objective today, we're going to analyze the importance and significance of Edison, Tesla, and Edison. You know, excuse me. We're going to examine the difference between AC and DC power. So yeah, if you ever heard of that band AC/DC, you see that little lightning symbol in the middle. That's what it means. AC and DC, electricity. Okay. We're creating an argument. Who was more influential, Tesla or Edison? Okay. Now, here's your warm up picture. Basically, I was just having you analyze this picture and tell me who do you think is going to win this fight? Tesla, the younger guy, or Edison, the older guy? And if you notice, each one of them has a cane type of thing. And if you look on top, there's two different things. One is a light bulb, as you obviously know. The other one's an arc reactor, which we're going to be talking about in a little bit. Okay, so just off your analysis from the look of it, who do you think is going to win? Tesla or Edison? Write down your response. Okay. And be sure to explain why do you think that? Okay. So pause the video, write your response because we're moving on in three, two, one. All right, really quickly though, too, I do have to mention this. This lesson is long. I've edited as much as I could, but just basically everything I'm gonna be teaching you about these guys is crucial to the whole story of this. Okay, so Thomas Alva Edison was born on February 11th, 1847, in Milan, Ohio. Okay, here's the thing about Edison, though, which is most impressive. He only had really 6 months of school total in his entire life. 6 months, you know. Um, Other than that, everything he learned to read, write, do math, he learned that from his mother. His mom taught him how to do that stuff. But other than that, things with science, and advanced mathematics and stuff like um, that was all him. He wanted to learn. He had that drive, that pursuit to learn more things. And you're going to see that that actually does help him in the future. Now, his family moved from Ohio to Michigan, and thing is, he read a lot of books. Again, things that were interesting to him, things that he wanted to know about. He read it. Okay, so read a lot of scientific and technological books, how things worked and stuff like that. And he wanted to really learn how the telegraph worked. So if you guys remember, we talked about the telegraph, the little dee 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 Morse code type of thing. He was so fascinated with that machine, how it worked, and how it was able to send signals across country, and how people could listen and hear the different dots and dashes and know that's letters and things. It just fascinated him. So at 13, he started selling like candies and newspapers at the railroad, which was, not a bad job. But the real treat of it all for him was he was right next to the telegraph office. And every so often he'd listen and try to listen and learn, like, okay, that's a dot dot dash, that means this letter. And, you know, he's trying to learn and get as close to the action as possible. And believe it or not, by the time he turned 16, because he was so driven and so wanted to know about this and learn about it and, to operate it himself, at 16, he became a telegraph operator full time. So he really upgraded in just a short amount of time. Now, at 21, he got his first patent, which is something if you ever create something, you put it to patent, you copyright it and all this stuff. So basically, you're telling the world, I invented this or I created this. Um, so the first thing he did was an electric vote recorder. Now, this was meant for Congress. So instead of them going list by list saying, Senator from New York, Representative such and such, how do you vote? Such Representative such and such, how do you vote? Instead of doing that, doing a roll call, he created this device where they could just press their button and it would say, this senator, this senator, this senator voted this way, this senator voted this way, yes or no. Um, so that's what it was meant for. But the thing is, the public, the people, really couldn't use it. I mean, there was going to be like, well, for voting, voting's every like 2 years minimum, So what? There's no real everyday use for this. And it's because of that he realized, like, yeah, you know what? I need to make things that the public actually wants, you know. That way he can make money and things like that instead of something that's it's very useful, the voting machine, but is people can use that every day? Probably not. Now, his first successful invention was the improvement, not the creation, the improvement of the stock ticker. Basically, it's this little, kind of like the telegraph, but it would send out a little message. You would write it out like, what are the stocks current up to date? So if you watch the news and you see a little scrolling thing at the bottom saying like Nasdaq's up 4.6%, AT&T's down 3 point some percent, Google is down 4.9%. That's what they would get on the paper, which is printed out. So the guys could look like later, earlier in the day, it was down, now it's up. They could see that. It's a recorded device. So all he did was improve it. So it came out better, faster, and things like that. And he got $40,000 for it. And he was like, wow, I can make more money, even better things, just by improving things. Now, the first thing that he actually did, the first world renowned invention that he actually created, was the tinfoil phonograph. And what this thing did, it recorded and reproduced sound, basically like a record player. Except this time, too, not just could it play music and some of that, it could record things, people talking and some of that. The president of the United States, President Hayes, invited Tesla over because he wanted to demonstrate it. And because people never got to hear someone's voice from the past unless you were there at that event, you didn't get to hear it. So for them to hear somebody who may have passed away 3 years ago, all of a sudden they hear their voice again, oh my gosh, this is so cool, you know. So it really shook the world. Now, the next big invention that he created, which basically he's known for to this day, is the incandescent light bulb. All right, electricity was nothing new. Electricity has already been discovered. But the thing is to be able to harness and control that power. That's where the issue was. A lot of people did create light bulbs and so that, but it would bust whenever there was like even the slightest power surge because the bulb couldn't contain and sustain that power and it had to go somewhere. So it just blew up the light bulbs. So that's what Tesla was able to do. It was practical, it was safe, and it was economical, meaning it was cheap compared to other light bulbs that were really, really expensive. So that's what he did. That was his biggest invention. Now, in total, in his lifetime, Edison has still to this day 1,093 patents, meaning he either invented something or improved it, like he did with the stock ticker. Okay, not every one of those 1,093 things is things he invented off the top of his head. No, that's a big misconception. These are either things he created, but a lot of it is improved it. He saw something and said, how can I make that better? And his most famous quote is, I have not failed. I have just found 10,000 ways that didn't work. Now, Nikola Tesla was born on July 10th, 1856 in, I'm going to kill this word, Smiljan, Croatia. Now, the legend is, again, there's no like definitive proof, things like that, but it's pretty like it was like raining that day. It was some lightning. The legend is he was born at the stroke of midnight on July 10th, 1856, and it was during a thunderstorm. Like lightning struck, when he was born and some of that. Is that 100% true? Maybe, maybe not. We don't know. Okay. But the thing is, though, growing up, he had a very unfortunate accident happen when he was young. His brother died, and he was only 7 years old. And thing is, Tesla said throughout his life that he would have visions of his brother. Like he'd walk around or to be sitting home, and then there'd be his brother sitting right there, or just leaning against a wall. Something like he always saw his brother. You know, as time went on, he kind of learned to like, okay, in my head, he's there, you know, but it didn't like oh my god, a ghost, all his life. No, no, he eventually just learned to accept that. And some people think that this might be because of some mental issues that he had back then, and well, basically all his life. Um, so we're gonna come back to that in a little bit, okay? Just keep that in the back of your head. Now, at 26, he came up with this idea of a brushless AC motor, and he made some sketches of it. There's a picture of it on the bottom. Basically, this motor turns in the middle, and it causes like a magnetic field, and then that is where the electricity comes from, kind of like a generator. It starts turning, and it creates electricity. Now, he studied math and physics at the technical school at Graz and philosophy at the University of Prague. So he was a pretty intelligent guy. And the thing is, he ended up going to Paris because the thing is, he really admired Edison, so that he wanted to work in the electrical field. So like one of his first jobs was repairing direct current power plants that were created by Edison, and he wanted to meet Edison. He wanted to be like Edison and some of that. Um, so one day, Tesla arrives at Edison's workshop, you know, and he doesn't speak that much. He speaks English, but not that like fluently. Um, and he comes with this letter, and he's like, can I help you? Who are you, kid? And Tesla says, this is for you. He gives him the letter. And thing is, Edison, he didn't really like anybody. If you weren't smart on his level, he looked down on you. There were very few people Edison actually liked and respected. And one of the guys was this man who wrote a letter to Edison. And he wrote to him saying, Dear Edison, I know two great men, and you are one of them. The other is this young man. So for that friend, that guy that Edison respects, to say, hey, this kid is, he's just like you, that's saying something. So Edison's like, okay, kid, would you want a job? Okay, fine. Come on in. Let's see what you got. Now, after working there for about a good year, Edison was impressed with Tesla because not only was he a really good and hard worker, he had diligence and ingenuity. You can give him a bunch of scrap metal and whatever, and he can make something, out of nothing, basically. So it just showed them that, hey, this kid is pretty smart. He's creative. He can get the mind going. Now, Tesla constantly, repeatedly tried to convince Edison to switch from DC power, which is direct current, to AC power, which is alternating current. Now, the thing is, Edison's like, no, no, kids, look. Direct current, it's better. It works. It's better. It's safer than AC power. AC power is just, it's wild. It's, yeah, so no, no, no. Trust me, kid. I know what I'm doing. DC power is better than AC. And Tesla's just like, oh my God, what will it take for this guy to listen? You know? So he constantly tries. Now, one day, Edison comes to Tesla and tells him, hey, look it, I got the situation. Okay. I'll pay you $50,000 if you can improve these DC dynamos, which is the thing that basically generates the power. He goes, um, so you can do it. Tesla's like, yeah, if I like stop all other work and all other stuff, it might take me some time to improve them. I mean, but yeah, I think I could do it. So I just like, all right, kid, go ahead. So after several months, not weeks, months, Tesla does it. He figures it out. And it does work. It's better than the old way. And it's just like, wow. Even Edison's impressed. Edison's just like, holy God, this kid's good. Now Tesla's like, okay, well, here's DC Dynamos. I'll take my money now. And this is where the most famous thing happens. This is where history truly turns. Edison tells Tesla, you don't understand American humor. Basically telling him, I'm not going to pay you. But thank you for these DC Dynamos, the improvement. Good job. So he gets nothing. No no recognition, no praise, not the money, nothing. But here comes Edison like, oh, look what I have created. Better DC Dynamos. And this is the last straw for Tesla. He's like, this guy won't listen to me. He promised me money and I delivered on this basically impossible thing to do, and I did it. And I'm not getting recognized for this. He's taking all the credit. Nah, 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 nah. So Tesla writes a letter of resignation and gives it to Edison, and Edison's like, "Go, fine, I accept your letter. Go. What are you gonna do? I'm friggin' Edison. You're just this kid Tesla. What are you gonna do?" Now, in the late 1870s, electricity was introduced to New York. There was a power station in Lower Manhattan. Now, the thing is, safety was not a number one thing. Things happen, Um, we know now, you should do this, you should do that with the wiring, with the plastic covering and things like that, so that there's no exposed wiring where people and things can get hurt. But back then they didn't care. They didn't know, so they had exposed wiring on the poles and stuff of that. And it was pretty dangerous. Kids would be climbing up the poles and all of a sudden, zzz, get electrocuted. Cats would climb up and, just get electrocuted, you know. Um, the other thing too, the people of Brooklyn became so used to these trolley cars going through, and they would just burst out electricity, shooting out everywhere, um, from the electric trolley tracks. That when a baseball team was introduced into Brooklyn, they were like, "Well, what do we call this team?" Well, I mean, something significant to the people of Brooklyn. They said, "How about the Brooklyn Dodgers?" Because the people dodged those electrical shocks. You know, that's what they were used to and they were good at. They knew, hey, here comes the trolley car, electricity will come a little bit, so better get out of the way. So that's where the team got the name, the Brooklyn Dodgers, which eventually became the LA Dodgers, all because of electricity. Now, Tesla is independent, right? He's on his own and he wants to improve the AC power and show that, hey, it is superior, it is better than DC power. Now, Edison, to kind of counter, because he realizes, oh, this is what Tesla's trying to do. This kid's pretty smart. He realizes he's a genius, and he's like, I got to stop out this kid. If he's going to try to promote AC power, I can't let him try to outdo me because DC power is better. So he tries to prove not that DC is really better, but show that AC power is dangerous, and DC power is safer. Now, each guy was financially supported by somebody with an immense amount of money. Edison had the top guy. He was being supported by J.P. Morgan. J.P. Morgan was a financial genius. This guy was so rich, he bailed out the government twice when they were about to, they couldn't pay back their loans and things like that. They had like no money. Yeah, he was like, I got you. Twice he did that for the U.S. government. Tesla was financially supported by this guy named George Westinghouse. Now, Westinghouse, he wasn't a financier like Morgan, wasn't a financial genius, to say, but he was an inventor. He made his money from his inventions, and he realized like this kid Tesla's onto something, and I should back him up because this could change the world. So now you have Edison versus Tesla. The battle of the currents has begun. AC versus DC power. So Tesla gives lectures and demonstrations on the AC power, showing how safe it is. One of the most famous stories is he has these two AC power towers shooting up electricity, and he basically just walks on the stage with his arms out, and the electricity just hits his hand from both sides, and people are just like, "Oh my God, he's being electrocuted!" He's like, "Don't worry, look at me, I'm totally safe. Check this out. I'm all right. I'm cool." You know, and people are just amazed because electricity is literally going through this man from one hand to the other, and some of that he would also like hold light bulbs. Can this light bulb reach out his hand so that electricity would hit his hand, and then the light bulb will turn on. People are just like, "Oh my God, this and that." And he's like some people try to say it's a trick, it's a trick. No, no, no. Look at this electricity is going through me and it's powering up this light bulb. You know, and he would have people come up and brave people and stage people, too, to show like, hey, this is safe. It is okay. You know, So in 1887, he filed 7 patents to complete the system of his AC motors and power transmission, generators, transformers, transmission lines, motor lighting, uh, all this stuff. Everything that he would need, he patented. So going back to Edison, who's trying to show that AC power is not safe, um, he finds an opportunity on August 6th, 1890. This man named William Kimler, who was a convicted axe murderer, is the first man to be executed through the electric chair. Now, the thing is, they didn't know what should we do, AC, DC. So Edison actually says we should use AC power, you know. And so they're like, all right. I mean, Edison's the man, so let's listen to him. So they set the guy down, right? Kemmler down. They put the little thing of water on his head. They put the little tart, and then they put these like 4 electrodes on his back to make sure the electricity goes through him. Okay. The first shock they put at 700 volts for 17 seconds, and he's just shaking, this and that, right? And then like the smell of burning flesh and the clothes, starting to burn a little bit, starts to come up, and then they stop. He's there. Kilmer's just there. So they're like, check his heart. Like, yeah, he sounds like he's dead. And then all of a sudden, he just goes. He just like takes a big deep breath, like, oh my God. And the people who are watching are freaking out because they're like, he's supposed to be dead. Oh my God, what's wrong? So they crank up the volts to 1030 volts and they hold it down for 2 minutes. And this guy, smoke's coming off the top of his head, and he's just burning. He's in shock, right? Finally, when they stop, when they take out his body and they do the autopsy, they found that those pods we found those pods they found on the back where they put it. I told you there was 4 of them. Those 4 burned right through his skin, the fat, the muscle, all the way to his spine, the bone. So this guy wasn't electrocuted; he was tortured to death. Now, here's the thing. I'm sure you're asking, well, what's the difference so far between AC and DC power? Here's the difference. DC power is low voltage, and the thing is, you would need power stations every mile or so. You have to have a power station really close because DC power only goes one way, and if it gets cut off, that's it. Okay, that's it. The power is off, off, gone. Now, AC power has more voltage, and a power plant could be one power plant can cover a huge distance, huge area. And the thing is, if something happens with the wiring, right? Whereas DC power would just get cut off, AC power could still function because the power is going either way. It can get one way, this way is not working. It can hit it on this side, you know. So that's the thing. That's the big difference. The power source, the power, it doesn't have to be near. It can be far away. And the other thing is, if something happens along the lines, DC power, if anywhere along the lines, it's going to stop. Whereas AC power won't stop. It'll just keep going. Now, at the Niagara Falls, the thing is, They wanted a hydroelectric plant. But the thing is, they didn't know if they wanted AC or DC power. So what happened was the Niagara Fall people basically decided, you know what? Um, let's hold off for a second making the decision. Because the thing is, in 1893, the World's Fair was in Chicago and they wanted electricity. So they basically told Tesla and Edison, okay, we're accepting bids. Okay. And when the way bids work for companies like that, things like this, is they say to each company, how much is it going to take for you to provide your service, whatever it may be. So for these guys, they're saying, how much would it cost us to for you guys to put electricity throughout this whole place? You know, so that's what they told them. Tesla won the bid because he said it's only going to cost you guys 554,000 dollars for us to wire this whole place with electricity with the light bulbs and everything. Edison said it's going to cost you 1.7 million dollars for us to put all the wiring and things like that. So basically, Tesla said my stuff is going to cost a third of what's going to cost Edison. And so these guys obviously said, well, we're not going to pay $1.7 million. We'll pay the 500, $500,000. So that's what they did. The problem is now Tesla's like, all right, we got the bid. Now we need the wiring, we need the light bulbs, and Edison refused to sell Tesla any light bulbs. They're like, no, we're not selling you guys. And they knew the amount of light bulbs they're going to need was going to be immense. It's going to be huge. So what happened was Tesla and Westinghouse made their own light bulbs. So really quickly too, if you see the picture, you see where the lights are around the building and stuff like that. Um, just so that people won't be like, oh my god, look at the electricity going out. Yeah, because again, these light bulbs were made and they would bust. On top of those roofs and everywhere around, they had guys with light bulbs. So if a light bulb went out, they could easily take it out and put a new one in, as quickly as they could. Because they didn't want light bulb going out here, 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 here. And it just looked nasty that look at there's empty spots. And then they would say things about, Tesla's AC power, just because they didn't have the condensing light bulbs, you know. So with that, it was a success. The people in Chicago at the World Fair were people around the world were amazed, like, oh my God, look at these lights. It's so bright and it's amazing. And, just look at this place. I mean, because it's like 10, 11 o'clock at night and you could still be out at night. It still look like almost day. Because you have to remember, a lot of places didn't have electricity. So for one place to have, they had gas lamps and things like that, but not electricity. And for them to see this immense buildings with electricity, they were able to see, oh my gosh, because you have to remember, people went to bed when the sun went down, because hey, there's no lights like we do nowadays and some of that. It's like gas lamp, candles, lanterns. So yeah. So with that, they Tesla and Westinghouse won the contract for the Niagara Falls contract. They were impressed. They said, "Fine, AC power, you guys get the contract." But here's the problem: because they underbid it so much, and then they had to create their own light bulbs, and you know, they lost a lot of money, and they couldn't really complete the project. Now, Westinghouse was about to relinquish the contract, saying, "Hey, we can't accept the contract because we don't have enough money to do all this stuff." But Tesla goes, "Wait, no, 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 you can't do that. You can't quit." And Westinghouse is like, "Hey, look it, we don't have money, you know." So, thing is, when a person makes a patent, they get money for their device, and in this case, Tesla is making tons of money for every watt of electrical power that these guys use, every device thing they use from him, the the, the generators, the transformers, all that stuff. So they had to pay Tesla. So that you know, but the thing is, to prevent them from losing this contract, Tesla takes his patents contracts and rips them up. basically saying, you guys can use my stuff for free. He's relinquishing his rights to get money from Westinghouse, saying, no, you guys can have it, for free. So now this is where things get interesting. Edison's General Electric, which is led by J.P. Morgan, knew these guys don't have money. These guys are basically broke. So he tried to keep Westinghouse in debt by threatening to sue him over AC power infringement, saying, oh, you guys' patents on your transformers and generators and all that stuff, you got that from our DC power. You guys copied us. That's copyright infringement, because that's our patent. You guys copied us. So we're going to take you to court. He knew he didn't have a case, but he also knew, hey, I can wait him out. I can keep trying to take him to court and to court and to court. He's got to buy lawyers, pay for lawyers, and do all this stuff, and it'd be more and more in the debt. And that's eventually what happened. Westinghouse knew what J.P. Morgan was doing, so eventually they came to him and said, "Hey, let us buy you out." J.P. Morgan tells Westinghouse, "Let us buy you out." So when that happens, yeah, all the rights, all the patents that Tesla created and basically gave to Westinghouse, now JP Morgan owns it. JP Morgan Edison. Now, when that happens, that's it. It's over. Tesla's finished. He's done. Edison's just over the moon happy. Yeah, we beat Tesla. Woo! I told you. DC power is better. So he's ear to ear, smiles and happy and things like that because, hey, he beat Tesla. But JP Morgan has a trick up in their sleeve. Um, During this whole time, things were going on between Tesla and Edison. JP Morgan is buying more and more stock into the General Electric, which is owned by Edison. It gets to the point where JP Morgan actually owns over 50% of the company, meaning he's the majority owner now. So he can do with that company what he wants. And when he basically comes and bursts Edison bubble saying, yeah, yay, congratulations, you won. But here's the thing. I own the company now. Edison's like, wait, what? You don't own the company? He's like, yeah, I do. I own over 50% of the stock. So now, as majority owner of this company, I'm going to rename this company from Edison General Electric to just General Electric. So he took Edison's name off the company. And then, just to put like salt on the wound, he basically tells him, and also this company, we're going to switch from DC to AC power because AC power, it is better. I only supported you because you're Edison and things like that. But looking at everything and some of that, yeah, AC power is better. And that's the type of power we still use today is AC power. Now, Tesla had a amazing, amazing career afterwards. Um, so again, he he doesn't have get any money from his AC power stuff, but he's able to do things too. He demonstrates radio communication, waves. You know, some of you guys who've taken the science class in physics and stuff of that, you learn about waves. He basically demonstrated how waves can send vibrations and noise and things like that from one device to another. Basically, a radio. He did this 2 years before Marconi submitted his patent for the radio. Tesla already demonstrated it. That's how you do it. That's how it works. Um, Another one of the most famous things that Tesla did was at Madison Square Garden. Where like the Knicks play basketball. Um, he had like a little, you know, pool, little pool, kiddie pool set up, and he showed people, look, I'm controlling that little boat with this device. I'm making it go forward, back, left, right. Look at that. And look at, there's no wires. No wires. This is remote controlled wireless device. And people were like, oh no, there has to be wires. Probably we can't see it from here. And you tell people, yeah, come on up. Look, there's nothing there. You can put your hand around and things like that. You can use it yourself. And people would come up and things like that, and just, oh my God, what the heck? How are you controlling this device when there's no connection? There's no wires connecting to it because wireless was unheard of back then. People could not fathom the idea that you can control something from a distance without some sort of physical connection. Tesla thought of that. So everything you have that's wireless, everything from Bluetooth, your cell phone, the internet, satellite dishes stuff, everything wireless. It's Tesla. Now, here's the thing. This is where some people were like, well, how come he's so such a genius? How come we don't know more about more of his work and stuff like that? Because in 1895, his lab burned down. And the sad thing is, all his notes, all his patents, all his blueprints, everything that he had was in that lab. Years and years, if not decades and decades of work destroyed, gone, erased. So that's why some of the things he created we can't replicate. It took us years to replicate because it was all in his head and he wrote it down because, hey, he might forget, which it did happen, you know, and bam, got destroyed. Now, in 1900, he got financial support from J.P. Morgan. Yes, that same guy who was going against him is now helping him because Tesla had this idea of a global communication network that could be wireless. You could talk from people from here in the United States to like England, or Italy. You could talk to somebody wirelessly. We had the Morse code and some of that, but now we can do it wirelessly. Talk to people. Wow, no problem. And not just radio, which is a one-way communication, from them to us. We can't talk to the radio and they respond to us. No, but he's saying now we can do communication. It can go both ways. You know. So it was situated at Warden Cliff on Long Island, and it was this big device, huge look tower looking thing. And the thing is, he ran out of money and he couldn't finish it. So he told JP Morgan, hey, I need some more money to finish this. Okay. I underestimated how much it would cost to make and things like that. Just a little bit more money. That's all I need. And Morgan is like, no, I'm not giving you any more. So basically, the project went under. And this is where some people have theorized and came up with the stuff saying this legend that he was making a death ray machine. Ooh, no, no. Okay. Basically, what it would be was like this. He was trying to not only do the communication thing, but also free electricity. Like I told you guys about this arc reactor thing when he was walking out with touching the electricity, with touching from end to end. This device would shoot out electricity out, just straight shoot it out. So imagine walking around from one side of town to the other, and all of a sudden, as you're walking, you notice your phone starts to charge. That's what he was doing, trying to give out free electricity to people. Okay. Now, sadly, after this, his health, his mental health, um, started to deteriorate. And he spent the rest of his days in a New York hotel working on inventions. But the thing is, like I said, his mental health started to fade. Um, some people thought, hey, something's going on with this guy in his head, man. Because think of stuff like wireless and some of that. He must be crazy. And you know, he did have some mental illness. What it was specifically, we can't really know for sure. There's speculations or guesses, but no one can definitively say absolutely for sure this what it was because they can't talk to him, things like that. Um, but to just give you an idea, he had this thought near the end of his life that he could communicate with pigeons. Yeah, like he could actually talk. They could communicate with them. They could communicate with him. You know, pigeons. So here's my question to you: do you think that Tesla's mental illness contributed to his genius? Or do you think because of his genius, that increased his mental illness? What do you think? We know he had it, but do you think that that helped him think differently? And then basically because of his mental illness and because of his genius, he was able to create um, things that nobody ever thought of? Or do you think that because of uh, his genius and stuff like that, because he was working his brain so much, that increased the mental illness in his head? He was working his brain just like way too much, way too hard, way too fast. That made the mental illness, creep up faster. What do you think? What's your belief? Okay. So once you finish this question, you're done with this lesson. Like I said, I know this one was long, but it's one of those lessons that you really should know about the history of Tesla and Edison, because Tesla is not really in the history books. They're not really talked about, and yet we electricity runs our lives nowadays. So, all right. So again, hopefully there's something new. Hopefully you enjoyed this lesson. With that being said, guys, you take care, you be safe, and I'll see you guys later. Okay.